Hello, world. This is Tommy Hagewood coming to you from Leesburg, Florida, the lakefront city in Lake County in the Sunshine State. It's 84 degrees on the way to 89. It will feel like 99. This is Wednesday, July the 22nd, 2020. Hope you're having a wonderful day. The devil is depicted as the god of this world in 2 Corinthians 4 in verse 4. He has tremendous success in deceiving people to live in sin rather than to serve the only true and living God who created humankind. In fact, he's been so successful in duping people that God's people have always been in the minority and always will be, according to what Jesus said in Matthew 7:13 and 14. There's always been a remnant of God's people who please God at any one time in history. When Jesus lived on earth, Satan used every trick in the book to tempt him to sin, but without success. In the three temptations, for example, of Matthew 4, Jesus responded with, "It is written," quoting from the book of Deuteronomy and showing his Father's word was always in his heart. Aren't you glad that Jesus knew the Old Testament? Jesus proves that what the psalmist said in Psalm 119 and verse 11. "Your word have I hidden in my heart, that I might not sin against you." And as David said in Psalm 37 and verse 31, "The law of his God is in his heart, none of his steps shall slide." The devil must have thought he had finally conquered Jesus when he had him murdered. But Jesus again proved him wrong by being raised from the dead, thus crushing Satan's power over death once and for all, even as God has promised back in Genesis 3 and verse 15. Listen to how the Hebrew writer describes it in Hebrews chapter 4, verses 14 through 16. "Seeing then we have a great high priest who's passed through the heavens, Jesus the Son of God, let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in the time of need." In addition to conquering death, Jesus also abolished the enmity between the Jew and the Gentile and provides the only true peace in the world between people who differ. Notice what Paul said in Ephesians 2:14 through 19. "For he himself is our peace, who has made both one, and has broken down the middle wall of separation, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, that is, the law of commandments, contained in ordinances, so to create in himself one new man of the two, thus making peace, that he might reconcile them both to God in one body, through the cross, thus putting to death the enmity. And he came and preached peace to you who are far off, and to those who are near. For through him we both have access by one Spirit to the Father. Now therefore you're no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God." In God's plan, there was one barrier that separated people, and it was the law of Moses. God erected the barrier, and God took it down when Jesus died and nailed it to his cross, according to Colossians 2:14 through 16. All who are reconciled to God are reconciled in the one body, the one church, according to Ephesians 1:22 and 23 and chapter 2 and verse 16. This is the only place on earth where it does not matter whether you're a Jew or a Gentile, male or female, rich or poor, bond or free, red, white, black, or yellow. Christians are united in the family of God in the one body by the cross, thus achieving peace. Thus Satan no longer has the power of death over mankind. His power has been abolished. Notice again the words of the Hebrew writer in Hebrews chapter 2, 14 through 18. "Inasmuch then as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, he likewise himself shared in the same, that through death he might destroy him who had the power of death, that is, the devil, and release them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. For indeed he does not give aid to angels, but he does give aid to the seed of Abraham. Therefore in all things he had to be made like his brethren, that he might be a merciful and faithful high priest in things pertaining to God, to make propitiation for the sins of the people. For in that he himself has suffered being tempted, he is able to aid those who are tempted." Friends, do not let the devil pull the wool over your eyes. When Jesus was tempted by the devil to bow down and worship him to avoid going to the cross and to receive the kingdoms of men, Jesus replied, according to Matthew 4 and verse 10, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only you shall serve." Jesus was not deceived, and neither should you be. For Jesus is the way, the truth, and life, and the only access we have to the Father, according to John 14 and verse 16. He invites you to come to him and be relieved from the burden of sin. Until next time, remember to search the Scriptures to serve the Lord and to share the gospel with others. It's a message that's too good to keep. This is Tommy Haygood wishing for you a very pleasant good day.